It's been a while, so I thought I'd make a little video on the current market situation and what I believe the best option to boost your coin balance is. Starting with a general market update. Every year, February is considered sort of a slow month where we start to see prices fall around the early to middle of February. One thing we do need to be mindful of is that EA is, in most cases, releasing new content around 1 week earlier than they normally have in the past. The reason we normally see prices decline around February is because we have just witnessed the disappointments of Team of the Year, where everyone has spent their budgets or parents' savings on store packs or have gone through the endless pain of an obsessive menu grind. So rightfully so, people are simply burnt out and need a bit of rest. This rest period naturally means there is a reduced demand for mid-tier and high-end meta cards. When you combine this with the fact that promo events that come after Team of the Year generally aren't too desirable, you can sort of understand why this becomes a declining market. But that definitely doesn't mean there aren't opportunities for trading. Simply means the risk is higher for investments that aren't incredibly basic and should be analysed with a little bit more caution. Performing a mental risk assessment is always a good starting point, where you ask yourself, can this card rise or fall? What do I do in the scenario it either increases or decreases? What will I do if the card's price just doesn't move? And lastly, when is the logical time to sell the card without putting myself in a frustrating situation? Now this year has been slightly different. With the reintroduction of icon swaps, this has caused a sudden demand for all ranges of meta cards. This should only be temporary, with prices starting to naturally decrease around the middle of February, but it could be far more severe after everyone starts finishing their 10 wins objectives in Weekend League. Simply because that demand is suddenly no longer there, where people aren't as desperate to upgrade every small aspect of their team. I've been asked quite a lot whether there's any sort of trend or analysis we can draw from icon swaps in the past, and my answer is just simply no. The last time we saw icon swaps was during FIFA 22, when Xbox, PlayStation, and PC all had separate transfer markets, which is pretty crazy to think about. Not only were there 3 separate markets, icon swaps was also released during the middle of December, which is generally when cards approach an all-time low leading up to Christmas Day, and of course, the winter wildcards panic. So not only do you have a bunch of scattered data across 3 separate markets, but the timing is almost 2 months apart, meaning any conclusions you will make will completely ignore multiple promo events, Team of the Year hype, and everything else that occurs during that 2-month window. Now, while it can be fun to theorize about investment opportunities for icon swaps, the best approach is to simply react on the day when the new objectives are released. The first thing you want to look at are objective-based requirements that can complete multiple tokens at once. An example we saw during this first batch was Silver, French, D1 Arkema players, since a full squad would allow you to complete 3 tokens at the same time. And people will pay a premium price to save time, and who can really blame them? So keep your eyes peeled for multi-squad combinations. Reacting quick could bring in some really big profits in a very short time. The next thing I want to cover is arguably the most important subject: future stars fodder. Long story short, we could see a trade in SBC if we follow last year's pattern. This is pure speculation, but the trade-in style SBC came out in the midweek of team number 2, which from memory required 3 future stars players, and you got 1 back in return. It didn't occur during EAFC24, but they were incredibly consistent with it last year, which normally indicates EA are quite happy with the results of that specific SBC. I'm personally banking on it returning this year. So how does the possible trade in SBC impact trading? Isolating to future stars alone, we should see 3 market movements. Mid-tier future star cards should start to fall. High-end future stars cards will be panicked upon its leak, normally rebounding once people realise the pack weight isn't that great. And then finally, discard price future stars cards should rise. Last year, for the future stars trade-in, we saw some discard priced cards go from as low as 11k all the way up to 30k and above. This means investing into these cards close to discard price has a potential of around 20,000 coins per card if all goes well. Even a rise to around 17,000 coins is pretty sweet and a really low effort for the profit you can make. I see no reason we can't all in these. The only risk you have is discarding them if we don't get a trade in SBC, which for Smith is a grand total of an 8 coin loss per card. When you evaluate risk versus reward, I'm definitely not upset with a potential loss of 8 coins versus between 5 and 20,000 coin profit potential. If you have any questions, tag me in the comments below or simply jump into the server and ask away. Happy trading, everyone.